Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books I read in the month of May. So in May I read a total of 10 books. 2 of them are novellas. Does that technically count? I don't know, but I'm counting it anyway. I read 2 books off my 22 books I want to read in 2022, my backlist challenge pretty much. I feel pretty confident about what I read. I read 2 5-stars this month, so I think that's a win-win. So as always with these videos, I'm going to start with my least favorite book I read for the month and working up to my favorite. This book I want to talk about is actually one of the novellas that I read, and that is The Love Connection by Denise Williams. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It wasn't like overly disappointing, but it just wasn't amazing. With novellas, they're short and sweet. They're like under 150 pages usually, and with that, you have to pack a lot of punch into that, at least in my opinion. So in this book, I do not remember the characters' names, but pretty much it takes place in an airport, the whole book does, and we have a character, she owns like this dog grooming business inside of an airport, like where you can get your dog like groomed and washed and things on layaways and stuff like that. And she's this guy, like every week he has to take in a flight somewhere, then has to go, and she has like this crush on him, and eventually they actually meet face to face and they kind of develop a relationship from there, and that is what the whole book is about. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. The romance really wasn't that amazing. It wasn't super memorable, so I gave it a 3 out of 5. If you just want like a quick, fast like novella that you can read in like an hour or so, yeah, I would recommend it. Is it amazing? Is it one of those novellas that you'll remember for a long time? No. So 3 out of 5. Didn't really love it. It was just kind of okay. Then we have a very big disappointment, and that is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. If you don't know, Riley Sager is a very popular thriller writer. I've read all of his books, have enjoyed a lot of them. One of his books that he's written is one of my favorite thrillers of all time. So needless to say, I was very much anticipating this book. It comes out next month, I believe this month actually, and sadly, I did not enjoy it. This book follows, oh gosh, I think her name's Casey, and she's recently lost her husband. She's a widow and she's an actress, and she develops a drinking problem, and she kind of makes a bad name for herself in the tabloids. So her mom, who is also like kind of a famous actress, tells her, hey, go to our family's like kind of cabin in Vermont. This takes place in the fall, which I thought was a very missed opportunity for a book coming out in the summer. Like, why not have it take place during the summer? But that's just me. Anyway, her mom's like, go there, spend some time alone, try to quit this drinking problem. So Casey goes, she does not quit her drinking problem, but in fact, she starts like maybe spying on the house across the lake. And she also actually saves the person that lives across the lake from drowning, named Catherine, who is a former model. They become friends. She tells her about her marriage, things like that. And basically Casey notices that Catherine has gone missing and that her marriage isn't as picture perfect as everyone else paints it out to be. So that is what this whole book is about. Honestly, it was boring. That was the main thing for me. That's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. There was not a lot happening to it. He did bring some paranormal elements into it, which he's done that with the previous book that I thought went really, really well. But this book did not go well in that regard for me. Like, I just found it to not be very satisfying or entertaining. Is that the right thing to say? Just at the end of the day, this was just kind of a subpar thriller where not a lot of things happened, and you could see the plot twist coming from a mile away. So I did not enjoy this Riley Sager book. I haven't read a ton of reviews on it, so I don't know. I don't know how people are going to perceive it. I personally did not really enjoy it, and I'm very sad about it because I do really enjoy his books for the most part. There's only been a few that I haven't enjoyed, so it sucks, but it happens. Moving on to my next disappointment is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is a horror sci-fi book, and it sounded so intriguing. Like, it's pitched as the Titanic meets The Shining. If that doesn't intrigue you, I don't know what does. Basically, it's all about this crew that's in space, and they come across this abandoned spaceship, and it's designed like as a luxury cruise ship, like from, now times, like Royal Caribbean, Caraval, stuff like that. And it has been abandoned for a while because this is when like space travel first started for them, and they really wanted to make it like sound appealing, so they made this like luxury cruise ship into space and really charged a lot of money. So like really, really rich people were on this spaceship, and basically 1 year into its maiden voyage, 6 months into it I should say, people just died and they never heard anybody about it again. So this crew finds it and they're like, you know what, let's go in there and investigate and maybe take some stuff because there's a lot of expensive stuff on there. And so when they get on this, it's called the Aurora, and they notice immediately something is not right. Like, it's spooky, it's haunted, it's eerie, it's all these many things. And I tell you what, the first half of this book I loved. It definitely gave me those sci-fi horror elements where it was very creepy, reminded me of Ghost Ship a lot, the movie. But then at the 50% mark, it just totally took a different turn, and I did not enjoy it in the slightest for that. So, I mean, the reviews on this book, there's a lot of people that love it. So I'd say if you're a big sci-fi fan, yeah, check it out. But I just wasn't, I wanted more kind of spookiness from it, and it delivered like the first half of it, but the second half, not so much. So I don't know, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think I just wanted so much more from it, and it just didn't deliver it for me, which is very disappointing because I really, really wanted to love this book. You know, when you go into books, you're like, man, I really, really hope this is a 5-star because it sounds amazing, and it's not, and you feel so bummed about it. This is that for me. So moving on. Another thriller I was very anticipating that did not deliver for me, and that is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hiller. I read a book by her last month that I loved and gave it a 5 out of 5, so I was very much anticipating her newest book, which comes out in July, I think. This one is all about a character named Paris who comes home to find her husband dead, and he's like a famous comedian, and she gets charged for the murder, and it's basically about her time like trying to defend herself to prove that she did not kill her husband, while also going into another character's backstory and things like that. And it just, again, this was very reminiscent to me of House Across the Lake, where it was just kind of boring. I know I don't want to use that word when describing a book because, I mean, don't ever listen to me, as always, with my reviews, take them with a grain of salt, but there just wasn't a lot that happened in this book. I wasn't overly invested into it. I just didn't love it. With her book that I read last month, Jar of Heart, that book was dark as mess, and it was just ugh. But somehow I loved it with the way she wrote it. But this one's very, I don't want to say like lighter. It really, you know, I don't know, that's subjective, but it just didn't have a lot to it, honestly. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. I was very disappointed with it. So moving on, let's get out of the 3 stars. Not now, in a second, because the next book that I have to talk about is Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. This is I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5, so there's that. This one is all about 2 characters. I forget their names. Jada, I think her name's Jada. She was pretty much on The Bachelor, if you will. She was one of the contestants, and she made it all the way to the end, and the guy that, you know, the Bachelor proposed to her, and she turned him down. So, of course, that makes her enemy number 1 in the United States, because we all know the obsession over reality dating shows, in particular The Bachelor and Bachelorette, have over this country. I say that because I don't get it. I don't get it. I've never gotten into it, so I mean, I'm like, why would you accept a proposal of somebody that you don't really love? So I don't know. But anyway, everyone hates her because of this. And so her public image is not doing good. She's supposed to get a trust in her grandmother's trust fund in a couple years, but she needs a job. And so basically what happens is she gets a job at this place called Sugar Blitz because a pro football guy owns it with two of his other teammates. And they love playing football professionally, but they also love baking, which is amazing. And so they own this bake shop, and they're not doing so well financially. So basically what comes to happen is Jada and this guy, I forget his name, decide to do like a fake relationship for him to get business, cupcake shop, and for her to like maybe repair her public image a little bit. So that's what this whole book is about. It's fake dating with an element of baking into it. And it was cute. It wasn't super memorable. I love the baking aspect of it because, oh my gosh, they at the beginning of the book, they developed the s'mores cupcake, which I'm obsessed with anything s'mores, but either way, it was cute. I think it's a good summer read if you just want a good, cute, fake dating book with baking into it. Check it out. Moving on to my other novella I read this month, and that is Under One Ruth by Ali Hazelwood. This is the first book in her like novella series that she's writing. I think this one came out in May. The next one comes out in June, and the other one may come out in July. I don't know. But either way, this is about 2 characters. I forget their name. They somehow come to be roommates because they both own the same house. It's like a weird thing. And they don't like each other. He's like a lawyer for like this really big corporation that's like bad for the environment, and she is, what do you know, a like eco student that really wants to help save the environment. So they don't get along. But the beginning of the book, as the character, she realizes that, crap, I think I might be in love with this guy. And so each chapter kind of goes back in time for when they first met to like how she got to have these feelings of being in love with him, which I really loved. Like, I felt so invested in this, and I wanted it to be a full-length novel because I love the characters. I love the chemistry they had. I love seeing them develop into like enemies, and they became friends, like amicable roommates, and then they developed feelings for each other. I really enjoyed it. It was super cute, had a good steamy scene in it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And then I read Hide by Kirsten White. This is the other horror book I read this month. This book, got a lot to say. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I stayed up late one night reading it, and by staying up late, my daughter still, sleep is still not happening for me in my house with the baby. So for me to stay up late reading a book, like, that counts for something, is what I'm saying, for me at least. So this whole book is, how am I gonna explain it? So basically we follow 14 characters, really follow one in particular named Mac. She gets an opportunity, she's like living at a shelter pretty much at the beginning of the book, but she's gonna get kicked out soon, and she needs money. So the person that kind of runs the shelter tells her about this competition by this really popular like sports brand, and then doing a hide and seek competition for a week, and it's 14 contestants, and whoever wins or whoever's found last wins 50 grand. So she's like, okay, I guess I have to do this. She also has a very dark past with particularly the hide and seek game. And so we follow these 14 contestants as they go to this abandoned amusement park, and where they play hide and seek for 14 days. The rules is during the daytime, the game is on. Like from sunrise to sunset, the game's on. If you're out, you get caught, you're out, things like that. Nighttime, you can go to like the base camp, eat, sleep, all that stuff, you're fine. But of course, with this book, we learn that there is something more sinister going on with some paranormal things. And it sounds so good, doesn't it? Like, it sounds intriguing. And I will say, the beginning was a little bit slow, and then we got into it, and then, okay, you know what? I think I'm just gonna have to talk about spoilers for this one because I have a lot to say. So, yeah, before I get into spoilers, I did enjoy this book. I did not love the ending as much. Like, the way it took was interesting, but I don't think was fully explained enough for me. And I just kind of wanted something a little bit different. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. Was it dark and creepy? Yeah, like, I was afraid for these characters legitimately. Like, it was like, I was like, crap. But yeah, it was dark. It had eerie concepts and things like that. So yeah, I did enjoy it. But I wanted this to be a 5 out of 5. I really, really did have some qualms about it. So I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't read this book, do not watch where it says spoilers. It's going to say spoilers at the bottom. So just so you know. So let's get into it. For this whole book, we learned that basically this hide and seek competition has to happen because this town, or the founders of this town, really like sacrifice themselves and stuff like that to make this like demon thing so that they would thrive and like never like have any problems like in the war, things like that. But basically every 7 years, they have to give 14 people up for this beast to consume. And it, you know, it can be like long distant relatives. It has to be blood members. And that was interesting to me. I thought, okay, that's kind of cool, kind of cultish, if you will. But they didn't explain it well enough. Like, why did they have to do this? Also, another thing that I really did not understand with this book, if it was in this book, please let me know. In this book in particular, these 14 characters, they were all descendants, obviously, of any of these town people. They were some well-known kids. Like, they're all kind of kids. One was a YouTube star. One was like an intern for somebody. One had, a lot of them were kind of well-known. They had friends. They had stuff like that. How are these people going to explain why these 14 kids just died? Like, do they have any, like, explanation for this? Or are they just going to say, hey, they died in this competition, this hide and seek competition? Like, how does that happen? How, I mean, even this brand that they made up, the Ollie Ollie Oxenfree company, how does that do? Like, I don't understand that. Like, if a YouTube star would go missing and then pronounced dead in a hide and seek competition, everyone would be like, how? Why? Like, explain. So how do the town people explain that to people that are not in this game? I don't know. Was that explained in the book? I don't recall reading that. So yeah, I don't know. at the end of the day, like, it was kind of a cool concept, but it just wasn't there for me. Like, I mean, I get why the demon was made, but it wasn't, like, I don't know. It just was kind of with the ending in particular, but how are they gonna explain the deaths? Number one. Number two, why exactly? Like, what is the sole purpose of this, like, creature? They, you know, I know that, I don't know. It's just, that's my two qualms. So if you have any of those, if you've read the book and you know the answers, help a girl out, because I don't. So moving on to spoilers, I'm giving it a 4 because I enjoyed the majority of the book. Like, it was pretty good. Like, it creeped me out. I liked the trajectory it was going. Just, there were some questions that I didn't have answered that really are still bugging me. Like, I just can't fathom it. Like, figuring out the answers. Like, I don't know. But anyway, I enjoyed it. If you want like a creepy book, I'd check this one out. Then we have a mystery thriller that I read, and that is Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. This is one of my 22 books I wanted to read in 2022. This is my second Agatha Christie book, and I enjoyed it. It's part of her series with the detective name. I cannot pronounce it. A lot of you guys recommended me the correct pronunciation, so thank you. But I have to say, I really enjoyed it, seeing from his point of view. If you don't know what Death on the Nile is about, it's basically about a group of characters that go on this cruise on the Nile, and one of the people on this cruise is found dead, and this detective guy has to figure out who killed her. So I really liked it. 4 out of 5. Definitely my favorite Agatha Christie book I've read so far. I want to read more of her, so if you have any recommendations, please let me know. And then we move on to my I had Death on the Nile right here. I'm just so used to not having physical books in these videos anymore. Anyway, then moving on to my 2 5-stars this month. Both of them I loved. Every Summer After by Carly Fortune is a debut novel. It's a romance book, and it's all about a character named Percy who goes to this kind of like summer town, and her family buys the summer lake house, and she meets the boys next door, and she becomes friends with Sam, and it's all about their friendship and something more, and obviously something has happened. So this book kind of flashes back to like 14 summers ago, 15 summers ago, because they haven't talked in like 12 years, so quite a bit of gap. And she's going back to this summer town because Sam's mom has passed away, so she's going to their funeral. So it's basically about her and Sam reuniting again and maybe hashing things out, and also going back to see their timeline. And it was very much kind of a sweeping love story that I really loved and was not expecting to love as much, so I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's very reminiscent to me of Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, like has the kind of same plot line. So if you love that book, I think you really will love this one. But I think this is a great summer book to read. You know, if you want like a grand love story about friends comes to lovers, and then something happens and they maybe can get reunited again, I would recommend checking this one out. And then my favorite book of the month is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zordita Cordova. I try, I really do. This one also took me by surprise. This was another book on my 22 books I wanted to read in 2022. And I went into this book thinking it'll be interesting, but I ended up loving it. And it's a hard book to explain. Basically, it's about the Montoya family and about the head of the family, Orquídea, and she is dying. So she sends a letter to all of her children, all of her grandchildren, like, hey, come to my home in Four Rivers to collect your inheritance. So they all go there and they collect their inheritance and learn that maybe something is not quite right. And Orquídea dies, and basically after that, some of the Montoyas are dying one by one, and they can't figure out why. They think there's a curse on their family. They think somebody's following them. There's also a lot of like kind of magic-y stuff in this. You also go back in time of learning how Orquídea's life came to be, how she came to be to this home in Four Rivers. You know, this is a very much magical realism book. I loved it. It's about family, about magic, about the ties that bind, and I loved every second of it. The way it was written was so lyrical and so beautiful. I loved it a ton. I would not be surprised. This is my favorite book of the year. I loved it that much. I have a video where I talk about it really fully in depth. I'll link down below if you want to check out more about it. But I love this one a ton. If you want a good book with magical realism and family, highly, highly recommend checking this one out. There you have all of the 10 things that I read in the month of May. Overall, very solid reading month. I have a month where there's 1 5-star read, I am happy, but this month I have 2, so I'm feeling pretty good. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts and feelings are on them, and things like that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.